Welcome all. Good morning. My name is Karen A, and I'm here in Jerusalem with fellows all around the world on our Afro-Euro Reco12 podcast. Reco12 at Reco12.com is tremendously popular. It is a repository of recovery resources, from live podcasts to recorded shares, experience, strength, and hope across all fellowships. Most of us recovered and living happy, joyous, and free, or at least with a solution when we're not, thanks to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Many of us work the workbook, 12 Steps in 4 Hours, that was devised by our fellow Cameron. But many of us have found recovery through the big book and in other meetings, fellowships, etc. We do not have the monopoly on God, and we invite you to join us as we pack things into the stream of life. If you would like to contribute a seventh tradition, you could do so at Reco12.com/support, and you could pay by PayPal or Venmo. And what else can I share with you? If you would like to share, hit me up. I will put my number in the chat. We want more people sharing in our time zone. If you think of some people who have great experience, strength, and hope, we lately have had people from Debtors Anonymous, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, Al-Anon, working the big book as an Al-Anon, Codependence Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Marijuana Anonymous, just to name a few. There are some people on this chat who definitely got to share here. My fellows that I'm in contact with regularly, you know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, get on here and take out some insurance against your own recovery. I'm actually really happy. And I got to say that, I personally commit my food and my plan of action to a sponsor / fellow of mine. And I just uploaded all of my mother's health insurance paperwork, which is a real drag. And so like you, we trudge this path shoulder to shoulder, doing the next right thing. It's simple. It's not easy. Take a bunch of forms and deal with a bunch of bureaucracy. But enough about me. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce to my beautiful fellow in the UK, Cheryl. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit of your recovery history. I'm reminding you that not everyone knows you on the line and wants to get to know you, a little bit about your personal life, your story, how it was, your recovery journey, and then, of course, your topic that you're going to share. And you'll have about 20 minutes to do that. I'll write down some questions. Everybody in the line, mark your questions down. And after Cheryl is done, or after about 20 minutes, you could start popping them in the chat, and I will feed those questions to Cheryl, and we'll take them live. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you for asking me to be of service today. My name's Cheryl, and I'm an addict. I've been super fearful about this share this morning, and so this morning I had everything planned out, and then my son had a really restless night. My dog woke me up at like 5:30 wanting to go out. My daughter's dad telephoned, and he was unable to take her to school today. So all of a sudden, like, everything that I had planned didn't go to plan. Before, without a program, that would have just sent me over the edge. I would have been like copping a resentment, getting angry, causing chaos, just lashing out with my family, because things didn't go the way I planned. But, I've been praying on this share today, like last night, today, for the last couple of weeks. And I just realized that God just wants me to be of maximum service to my family today. So that's what I was able to do this morning, take me out of myself, out of my thinking, and just be there, and just do what I need to do as, a mom, a wife, just a responsible adult. God does for me what I can't do for myself, because, left to my own devices, I would have just been sat there like, just not doing the best thing for anyone. A little bit about myself, and my journey into the room. So I came into Cocaine Anonymous in 2016. Prior to that, to the outside world, like, everything kind of seemed okay. Like I had the job, I had the house, the family, like looking inwards. It was like, oh, everything's fine. But, I had this terrifying drug habit, and just inside I was just like slowly breaking. I knew that it wasn't how I wanted to live. I thought that it was the substance that I was using that was the problem. So I tried to kind of stop my own devices, and I tried therapy, like self-help books, hypnotherapy, all these different things that when I went through the workbook that you mentioned with my sponsor, they're all the logs. I was just trying to pin my recovery on external things, and I couldn't really understand why I didn't why I couldn't stay stopped. Coming into the rooms of recovery, I'm just going to read a little bit on page 52 of the big book. And it talks about the bedevilments. We were having trouble with our personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. And that was me. I just didn't understand what was going on. So I heard about the fellowship, and I went along to my first meeting. And someone was there doing the share. It was just a really small meeting, and I heard them talk about this illness that I suffer from, and that they were explaining about the disease of alcoholism, the spiritual malady and the physical malady, brought on by this mental obsession. And I just remember feeling like just complete peace at that meeting. It was just like, my gosh, these people, they speak like me, they think like me. And I really got stuck in. After like my first meeting, they had like a conscience meeting, and I got a service position straight away. Now, at this time, there were no women at the meeting. So my number was passed to another woman, and they said, oh, she'll call you tomorrow. And you know what she did? And like for the first time, I was like, wow, like someone's actually doing something that they said they were going to do, because, I was so fickle. I just had no accountability. Like if I was going to get something from it, like then I'd show up. But, if there was nothing in it for me, I was so unreliable. I just didn't really care. So for someone just to kind of take that time to call me and just talk to me and kind of share a little bit of hope, like, I don't know, that really just changed like my thinking. I was like, there could be something in this. And then, that was kind of my path. Like she put me in touch with my sponsor. And when I met her, like, she was so happy. And when she was telling me her story, and I related to it, and then she was just like lit up. And so I did what I was told. She took me through the steps. We went through the big book. And I remember I think I completed the steps within 60 days. And that was like, for my ego, I was, like, oh, I'm the best sponsee. I've completed the steps. And I kind of just missed the whole point. Like I thought I did the steps, and now like I was going to be okay. I kind of failed to realize at that time was when I came into the rooms, I ended a very car crash marriage after the 9 months. And then I just, I put one substance down and just kind of started picking up other things to make me feel better. And, that was for me at that time, men. And I just didn't even realize. And it's only going back through the work and kind of talking this stuff out now, all these years later, that, I was like, well, I'm not drinking, so I'm fine. But I'm like, I was completely oblivious that I was fixing myself on men. And it was still not enough for me. Like, I was still kind of broken inside. There was still no, I thought I had that connection with a higher power, and I thought that I had God, and I did, as far as like my drinking and using was concerned. But it was kind of like I had this recovery life, and then like my life, the two just kind of ran parallel to each other, and I just couldn't seem to merge them. I couldn't just get a grip on that. And the same way that the drugs and the alcohol brought me to my knees, I was broken again through, because these men weren't fulfilling me. They weren't giving me what I needed. I just had these expectations. And so, yeah, my thinking was like, okay, I'm going to be okay. I will just go on a man ban. Like, that's going to be fine. Not thinking that I'm going to, like, let's start helping other women, like carrying the message. Instead, I just, it was still all about me. Thankfully, I really relied on my sponsor a lot. I would go to her with everything. Like, I can't do this, I can't do that. And she suggested, as like, you need to start working with other women. So, for a good couple of years, like, life took off. Everything was okay. I felt okay. And then, I got into a relationship with someone that was also in recovery, and we had a child in recovery. We traveled the world prior to having our son. And we would go to meetings. We've been to America. We went to like a CA convention in Marbella, like, and we just, wherever you go, like, you can find, I mean, this was like pre-COVID. So, it was like actual face-to-face meetings. And, wherever you go, like, you're just welcomed into the rooms. And it was just a really beautiful place to be. But soon, I don't know, like, I just kind of, because everything was so good, I guess I kind of just started to, maybe just, like, miss a meeting here, or like, can't do this there. Just started to slowly put the work down. And then at that point, I just started, like, just really acting out. I was like full of fear, full of jealousy. I was convinced that my partner was cheating on me. And I just started really acting out dishonestly. The same way that, when I was in active addiction, it's hard work, like lying to cover up a lie, like that kind of behavior started coming out in, like, and I hadn't even taken a drink. Or, and my thinking was like, but this is okay. Like, I would just be like, oh, it's just my defective character. Like, I would just blame it on that. Like, this is acceptable behavior, like, and looking back, like, my thinking was so distorted. Like, it talks about in the big book, like, I could not see the truth from the false. I like justified everything that I was doing. And yeah, I just carried on like that. But I was like, but I'm not taking a drink. Like, I'm working a 12-step program. Everything's fine. And, I could not get out of that hole. Like, again, I was like stuck in myself. And this time I just didn't do anything about it. Like, I was completely disconnected from God. And this was 4 years sober. I thought, actually, it's probably going to be, I need to change my sponsor, because, that's what the issue is. So then I ended up without a sponsor. Then COVID hit. So that was just perfect excuse for me to obviously not go on meetings, not go to my home group meeting. And, like, the whole world was cropping up with like all of these solutions, the Zoom meetings and things. And I just, I just turned my back on it completely. And then, like a year later, I picked up a drink again. And then, like, after that, I picked up a drug. And then, at first, like, my head told me it was okay. Like, I could control this now. Like, I knew what I was doing. But of course, like this is a progressive illness and it gets worse and never better. And that's what it was like for me. I tried a few times to get back into the rooms, but I could never stay. Everything changed. Sorry, I thought I muted myself then. Everything changed in July 2023. Again, after another, like I was just literally at my rock bottom at that point. And, thank God there were so many online meetings that I could get to. And I just, I spent like a whole weekend just on various Zoom meetings. And someone suggested that I get on the Noodle with Nikki meeting on the Monday. And I remember just getting on that meeting, and I think there was like 180 people or something on there. And I just remember sat like, oh my gosh, I had my camera off and it was just so overwhelming. But again, everyone was just speaking the solution, speaking about the big book. Unfortunately, I've been to quite a few meetings that it was just very this stuff gets watered down. People aren't always living in the solution. And it was incredible. And, a lady on that meeting put her number in the chat about sponsorship. So I just, I got in contact with her. And, it's crazy. The way, how amazing technology is. She was in Israel, I'm in England, but we were just able to connect. And she said, you need to print the workbook and we'll go through it. So that's what we did. And the big book workbook, it's just everything is condensed, everything is very clear, and there is no room for it's very direct questions. There's no kind of room for waffling. It's like yes or no. Like, am I going to do this? Am I willing? And you know what? It was incredible. I got connected to a higher power so quickly. God works for me. He does things that I can't do for myself. Now, when I came into the rooms of recovery, my husband was still in the active addiction. And I remember that first weekend he was drinking. And, before I would have just fixed on my sponsor, phoned them up, be like, oh, I don't know what to do. But, I was unable to do that with my sponsor's religion she's unable to have her phone. So, this is a miracle because I had to rely on another, my higher power, because, people aren't going to fix me. My sponsor is just another human being. So I had to really pray, just please keep me safe this weekend. And, I was able to not pick up that drink, even though it was just right in front of me. Going the blessing for me about being taken through the workbook was, it is direct, direct instructions, as is the big book. And my first amends process when I first came into the rooms was just a car crash. I was still running on self-will. I was approaching, I caused more harm than I did good. But I didn't know that at the time. And this time round, there was one amends I had to make to my best friend. And, it wouldn't have been enough just to go to her about a past event and just say, sorry for what I did, sorry for these behaviors, sorry that I was dishonest, sorry that I wasn't, all of these things. And you know what, I prayed on it, and she had, in August last year, she had her second child, and it was an emergency cesarean. And, her hormones were crazy. She was, she's got another little girl, Darcy, who, I was able to just step in and be like, hey, let me be of help to you. Let me, take the children out. What can I do for you? How can I help you? And that's that was a blessing. That was much more helpful than me going to her and just saying, look, you didn't know that I lied to you, but, this is what I did. Like, that wouldn't have been helpful. But God showed me how I could be of maximum service. So I continue when I finished the workbook, as I agreed in the steps, I would be of service to other women. So now I sponsor women. Constantly I try to put my number in any kind of Zoom meetings that I'm at, and I've got a home group that whenever someone comes in, always giving out my number, always reaching out. What does my recovery look like today? I get up in the morning and I pray. I stay the step 3 and the step 7 prayer. I'm able to pause during the day when I'm, feeling resentful. I've tried to follow the directions in the big book. I listen, like Reco12 is just, it's full of amazing resources. The meetings that they put on, the podcast that they do. Whenever I go to meetings, I've always tried to, keep it solution based, talk about how, how I live my life. The blessing for me today is being able to take what I've learned and like roll that out with my family. For instance, my daughter, she's 15 and she was having issues at school, and another girl had stolen her pen from her. Now, before, I would have either listened to her and just kind of batted it off like it's trivial, or just kind of not really, I don't know, I would have just given my opinion on what she should have done. But now I was kind of like, oh, hold on, like you're feeling resentful, and I've got the workbook in front of me. So I was able to take her through the columns, like, why are you resentful? What is the cause? What does it affect in you? Where are you at fault? And how can you set matters straight? So we were kind of, I had to kind of take it down to like a 15-year-old's level. But by working through that, like we were just kind of able to get to like a better place without her having to, she wanted to go in and then cause harm to this child. And, we were able to talk about consequences of actions. And, she came home from school the day after and she didn't have to then make any amends for any behaviors that she'd done. And, you could just kind of see that change in her. And yeah, it's such a blessing to, this works for life. Now, like, recovery is my whole life. Like, there's not kind of like separate parts to it. It's like God is doing for me in everything. I was so fixated on being sober that I missed the whole point of the program. Like, it's my, and the big book, and the workbook, it's like I'm here for my thinking, not my drinking. And I can, really, really see that now. I think one of the biggest blessings for me is my husband has just come back into recovery. So that caused me quite a lot of, over since sort of last year, I've been wanting to do things like I wanted to help him. And, I'm so, so blessed that I do get to work with my sponsor. We have like, usually every week we get on a Zoom for an hour and we read the big book, or we can talk about our life and bring it back to the big book. And we've studied other text. And she's such a blessing, in my life today. We can commence shoulder to shoulder. But, she kept taking my thinking back to the big book, to the wives afterwards. And also quite recently, we've got Easter coming up in England. And, it's like 4 bank holiday days. And I had like started planning all of these things in. This was just a few weeks ago prior to my husband coming back into recovery. And I thought I was being helpful because I was like, right, we're going to do this thing this day, this thing this day, just to sort of keep him sober. And, again, there was no faith for me. I was just trying to control everything. And, my sponsor shared with me, I'm kind of blocking him from his step one. I'm preventing him from admitting that he was powerless because I'm just there. I had to really check my motives in what I was doing, and how I was planning things out. Am I being responsible or am I controlling? And after that conversation, I just was like, okay, like I need to just let go, and let God, like what will be, will be. And then of course, the next, very, very next day, like God just came in and he went to his first meeting. So he's now, 2.5 weeks in, he's working with a sponsor. And, this is the power, I think that I can control things. I think that I'm all powerful and, like I need to just get out of the way, and let my higher power do his job. Because it's definitely way better than anything that I can do. And I just want to leave it here on a reading from page 53, where it talks about God is everything. So halfway down on page 53, it says, when we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis, we could not postpone or evade. We had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else he is nothing. God either is or he isn't. What was our choice to be? Every day, like I just have to remember that passage in my head. Is it Cheryl's will or God's will? And yeah, just keep trying to live through God. And yeah, I think I'll leave it there if that's okay, Karen.
That is amazing. Thank you so much. Sorry to hear a kiddie movie there in the background. I hope it's not too loud. Thank you so much for your beautiful share. I, for one, really identify with trying to control the addict in my life. And I'm just so inspired by what you said about your husband and his program. Yeah, I just want to share on that. Is that okay with you? Just really identify with that. I have a son who's a compulsive overeater and he's really overweight. And I took him to the sugar clinic and I got him on a diet and he's got his sugar down. And I even got him into like an exclusive research program where he got shots for under 18-year-olds to lose weight. And guess what? He was in it for a year and he lost 10 kilo and the program was over. And guess what? He stopped getting his shots. And so his appetite is back and he started gaining the weight. And I just I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I laughed at myself. I was like, okay, that worked for a few months, kind of, sort of, not really, why don't you let God help him now or let your addict hit his rock bottom? If anyone is on this line and relates to what Cheryl shared about her husband or what I just said about my son and his overeating, through this workbook, we actually handle Al-Anon as an addiction, a control addiction, and really all addicts are control addicts, right? Because we're not letting God run the show. So I refer you to our website to listen to the share that Nikki did about Al-Anon on our Afro-Euro podcast. I had a question. Seems you found an amazing sponsor that guided you through the big book. And I loved what you said at the beginning, that you got through this workbook fast. You quickly put yourself down, but I actually want to give you a big hug and a high five. I love what Cheryl said about getting through the workbook in 60 days. Even if she did fall perhaps after that, it is important to go through this work swiftly. And I think that that's where other people drown and die and whatever, get hugged to death in other fellowships and meetings. Can you talk about the positive side of that? How did you get through the workbook at a fast clip? I don't want to, without focusing on your relapse yet, we'll talk about that after, but how did you get through the work and do a thorough job in 60 days? Talk to me about that.
Yeah,
Barbara, if you WhatsApp me, I'll send the workbook, or maybe we could upload or can you upload the link here into the WhatsApp chat? I know you're tech savvy.
yeah, thanks, Karen. So, yeah, I downloaded the Big Book workbook, which is what we're talking about. Um, and yeah, like everything is condensed into that workbook. So, my sponsor, she was just like, we had like a little call, like an identification call. And then it was just like, she wasn't there to be my friend. She wasn't there for me to just listen to like tell her my whole life story and like, poor me, poor me. It was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to schedule a call at this time. Like, you call me and then we go through the work, and we like had that hour set aside. And then as we were coming to the end of the call, it was like, okay, like, I wanted this, like I really wanted this. It was like, okay, when can you meet next week? So after every hour that we had set aside each week, and like it's different time zones, but just if you want this, you can just make this work. So I mean, there was one time it was like 6 a.m. here, like sometimes it's like 7 p.m. at night, but just it was like 1 hour. Like I could definitely commit to that. And we just, we read the book, and then I just went away, did any of the work that I needed to do. And then, yeah, like everything, this workbook is incredible because after like I went through the workbook, like now, as I said, we speak regularly. We can pick up pages in the big book, but it's condensed, like everything is there. It's like super simple. And also, Karen, as you touched upon, like the different, the coda, the Al-Anon, I didn't even like now, before I came into recovery, I just thought I can only work with other addicts and I'm only one fellowship, but this has just opened my eyes. It's opened my mind of actually all the different, the different fellowships that I can actually identify with. And the last sponsee that I worked with didn't have the same, like she didn't use cocaine, but I was still able to take her through the workbook because, it makes it quite clear. It says, on page 3, any acting out or obsessive compulsive addiction patterns, such as drugs, sugar, food, nicotine, gambling, sex, love, fantasy, it covers everything. So we can just take anyone through these steps.
Yes, I want to echo that. I do not have an issue with alcohol or narcotics, and I've worked with very successfully with AAs and NAs. I came in through OA, kind of learn about love addiction and codependency and identify with that. I'm an ACA, but I work, the workbook, it works. It's just, you have a strep, you take the, take the antibiotics, assuming you give antibiotics. After 7 days, it should, within 3 days, you should see an improvement. In 7 days, hopefully it's gone, or you need a stronger antibiotic. This is a recovery recipe, a recovery prescription. It works when you work it. I want to say something about what you just said, Cheryl, which I really love. One, she's saying that her sponsor was there. She was loving, but she was firm, or maybe a better word is focused. She kept redirecting her to the workbook. This is how we do, sister. We crack open the workbook and we read it. I had a newcomer who's been, has a husband in rehab and has been reaching out to me saying, can we talk? I have an hour drive. It's like, maybe a little bit. I said, we want to talk when you can open up the workbook and get acquainted. The way I help you, I said, I'm happy to hear your whole life story in this framework. But otherwise, I'm not qualified to hold all your trauma, all your pain. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. That would be irresponsible. And I'm not interested in doing that. But in big book language, it's not helpful. It's not helpful to her. And it's not helpful to me. The big book talks about this too. We cannot carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. I had a sponsee was a sex and love addict who told me about every exploit she ever had with one man, with two men, with, I don't know, throw some monkeys in there or something. No, just kidding. But like, I couldn't deal with that because, like Cheryl, I have 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, I have teenage girls, I have teenage boys, when they were 1 hour late coming home, I started flipping out because I had taken the weight of the world on my shoulders. I can't handle all my sponsees checker cast. Similarly, I have a relative with bipolar disorder. She's angry at the government. She's angry at social services. She's angry at the religious people. She's angry at the non-religious people. She's angry at the left wing. She's angry at the right wing. And I said to her, that is, I do not have that luxury, as our workbook says, quoting our big book. We do not have the dubious luxury of getting angry like other people. We can't drive like other people. In Israel, people drive like crazy. I can't flip people off while driving. I can't cut people off like driving because it will hurt me and consequently all of those around me. We work these principles in all my affairs, meaning if I'm late, but someone wants to cut in front of me, I have to stop, pray. If I have the time, if I really don't, I may not. And okay, because that's who we are in recovery. We're the person who at the intersection lets the other guy go in front of us, right? Yeah, you want to say something about that, Cheryl? Please hop in, jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. The big book talks about us being like sensitive people and people pleasing, that really dishonest behavior. And thank God that, because before, like people would come to me and I've heard it in the rooms, like I'd be taken hostage by sponsees, like just spewing their problems. But I couldn't say like, let's take it to the big book, because I didn't make the big book a working part of my mind. And also I just wanted to help them. I thought I was being helpful by, oh, let me like offer this solution. Let me help you with this. And again, like I need to, as you kind of touched upon, Karen, like we need to direct them to the properly appointed authorities, because, otherwise we could be causing more harm than good.
Yeah, and if we're active out there working with women, I'm sure you've come across this, Cheryl. I live here in a religious community. I work with a lot of religious women. I work with non-Jewish women too. But like, I'm not the person to tell a person whether to get divorced, whether not to get divorced. I'm not the person to tell them whether their husband is beating them or not beating them. Because remember, we're talking to addicts. First of all, I don't know you from Adam. And even if I do, I don't know how crazy you are behind closed doors. So I can hear your story. I can broker your relationship to your higher power, and I can help you work with others. I'm not saying, if he's hitting you, that's good. No, it's objectively not good if he's hitting you. But I don't know the whole story. I don't know if you hit him. I don't know if you, kicked him where the sun don't shine. I don't know anything except how to take you through the workbook, get you to God, and helping others. And this is real tricky. Those of us who are sponsoring, and I know some of my fellows on this line, like you, Cheryl, like others here, we're active. And that people pleasing, like Cheryl said, ensnares us, it seduces us because we want to save the day. And we have to right away, we have to be in top spiritual condition. I want to qualify this. I'm not a therapist. I'm not the person to go through for this, but the 12 steps are great. The other thing is we want to work. You hear with Cheryl when she came back after she was all psyched doing this in 60 days, she came back wanting the solution, we want to really work with people who want this with the desperation of a drowning man. If people are driving you crazy, if ladies are saying this and that, if people are asking you the same question 50 times, if people are arguing back, say, hey, like, this is what I do. This is how I do it. Black on white. We go through the steps. We go to the big book, and God willing, we recover. We have some questions here in the chat. Maybe you'll address those. Let's go up. Brian asked you to share about acceptance and surrender, especially when I had a part with my behavior. Well, according to the big book, we always have a part, just either we're willing to look at it or not. Can you see this question?
Yes, yeah.
Very hard for me. Okay, why don't you read it and answer it as you will.
Thank you. Page 417 in the big book. How many times have I had to go to this page? And I'm just going to read this paragraph out because this is my my kind of answer to everything when things don't go exactly how I had planned. So, and acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and in my attitudes. You know, I can't say it any better than that. You know, when I try to run the show, and I want things my way, like nothing good is going to come of that. Like I just have to take it back to that paragraph.
Give us an example, Cheryl. If you don't mind getting a little personal here. Give us an example when you found something. I also have a personal example to share. Brian asked me to share as well, and I will. Give us an example of when you wanted to fix something was displeasing to you, and then you realized you had to surrender to acceptance and get there on page 417.
Yeah. Okay, so probably at the moment, like taking it back with my daughter, you know, she's 15, she's got her mock exams coming up. And we are two very different people. Like I am very, like, I like to be studious, I like to be organized and da 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 da. And she's like the polar opposite. And, you know, for the last couple of weeks, we've got the Easter holidays coming up, and I'm saying to her, like, oh, it's going to be really fun. Like, we can put together a revision timetable and we can do this and we can do that. And it's just like me, like, pushing what I want for her, what I want best for her. You know, and I just, you know, I was getting her a tutor, like making her do her homework, like just really like just pushing because I want her to pass her mock exams, because I'm so worried about her future, because, you know, it's all about me. And, you know, and it's still like every day I'm kind of having to take this back to God. And I'm like, okay, I have no control over this. If she doesn't want to put the work in, okay, like that's on her, you know? So I have to let her, if she wants my help, like she knows that I'm here, but you know, I just have to let that go. And she's old enough now that she can make her own decisions, and she understands the consequences. So yeah, that's something that I have to really hand over, like a lot.
I love that you brought this up, because I'm going to actually throw in another part here, right? Because we have a few mommies on the line here, present company included. Right. We have to accept, you know, my kid is not the studious type. My kid is not, you know, doesn't wake up on time. My kid doesn't want to study in the same way that I would. And yet, as a parent, right, we are the properly appointed authority to teach boundaries, to give discipline, to offer help, right? It is Cheryl's job, just like it is my job with my teens. To pay for their tutoring, offer them tutoring, make them a time, set boundaries, you know. It's not always fun, but, you know, we don't just like let them hit rock bottom. Not at 15, you know, they're not capable adults yet. But, you know, to say like, okay, you want to go out with your friends. Well, after you clean your room, you could do that. After you've made up with a tutor, you could do that. You know, I'm not going to speak for Cheryl, but I know to my kids, I say, listen, if you're getting above 80, that's fine. I'm not going to demand straight A's. But if you're under 80 and you want to go out, you have to make sure to get some help. Get some help, get some tutoring. You want to stay out late at night, maybe, but you have to wake up for school on time. I have a daughter who's chronically late. And I told her, like, I'm not going to let you go out at night if you can't handle the mornings, right? Because I am the properly appointed authority to teach her how to function. Yet I can't control her, and it's a really fine line. I also struggle with that control and mothering, just like I shared with, like, in the past, I've shared a lot of times, I have a few overweight kids having my face in their plate, why are you eating that? And why are you having cake? And we just had our holiday here that's much like Halloween, where the house is now full of candy and cookies and cake. And it's like, and I just have to shut up and do my job. It is I'm the properly appointed authority to buy vegetables, cut salad, make healthy soups, make sure there's lots of protein and vegetables. And I'm not the properly appointed authority to nag and be on their case. And I have to pray for help with that every day. Without him, it is too much. I need God to help with that. Because left to my own devices, I am a big, fat nag, control freak. But with God, I could do a little bit better and get a life, and a lot of times it means, if I know I nag, I have to just take my 2 legs and get out of here, go to Pilates, go to the supermarket, just get out, or offer a different activity. Brindy asked about acceptance when I have a part in something. I had something yesterday. It's funny. And I reached out to one of the fellows in our group that I'm really frustrated in my house. Here I am trying to live the spiritual life, and it's really frustrated. There's a lot of gossip around me. And I really hate it. And I think it's really tacky. And it's like, gosh, you don't have anything better than to, like, make fun of people or talk about people or imitate people. Like, and I do believe that. And yet, I had to still look at, where am I at fault? Where am I to blame? I had some resentment against, someone who was talking about other people. And I just have to stop and pray for, and talk to them about it. I talk to them about it. We got to improve the speech in the house. We got to think better. We're going to have a better quality of life. We're going to be healthier. And, and I'm still in the middle of that one. I do have to pray on it. One of my daughters and I said, we're going to learn a book about proper elevated speech, how to, study a proper ancient Jewish text about proper noble speech. We're going to start doing that. So, again, this isn't one size fits all, but yes, even in that, with that noble thing, I have to look at, where am I at fault? Where am I to blame? And where can I take responsibility, right? Well, we always look at that, and then we look for the next right action. We don't just leave it in the thought life, in the confessional life. There's an amend to make. What can I do in my house? And I told them I'm willing to have a contest if we learn the laws of proper speech in Judaism. I told them I'm willing to pay, $10, $20 if someone wants to tell a story about proper speech at the dinner table. I will even pay for that, if it matters to me, I got to make it happen. Just like if I want my eyebrows done, I got to reach the cosmetician and find one if she's not available. When someone wants their eyebrows done, they'll call everyone until they get an appointment. So if I want proper speech, I got to keep doing my part and stop controlling others. Cheryl, I'm happy to hear if you want to share anything on that, or take a different topic about fear and acceptance and all that.
Yeah, sure. So I think, like, for me, a little bit, like, so as my daughter is older, like, like my son is 4. So there's, like, I have to, obviously there's a lot of different parenting methods than with a 15-year-old. But, at the moment I can lay, like, the same way when I work with a sponsee, like, I can give them all the tools. Like, I can provide those things and just, like, I'm here, but I can't do the work for you the same way I can't do the work for a sponsee. Like, I can't want it more than them. Like, I can explain the consequences. I can provide, like, the education, but, ultimately if she doesn't want it, then that's on her. And, that's really hard for me, as a mum and as, like, a codependent. And, in my active addiction, she's kind of been, like, she's experienced that with me. And there were a lot of times when I would, kind of used her, like, make me feel better, like, a really unhealthy relationship. Or times when, I couldn't get her to school or things like that. It's just, so she's kind of now experiencing this new relationship with me, and it's hard. And I'm incredibly grateful to hear. I listened to that Al-Anon share you mentioned with Nikki M, and to hear her parent, it's like, I'm not here to be your best friend, because that's kind of what I always wanted, like, like me, like, but it's like, no, like my job is to be your mum. So this is like how it's going to be. So it's amazing to kind of hear other people's experiences just to help me with my own, the same way that we hear about other people's recovery, like what do you do to get recovered? It's how do you parent? How do you do this? Like, it's great for me to hear from other people. I think you're muted, Karen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I was touching the screen, but it didn't help. Yeah, I love what you said there. And this reminds me of something that was said to me once. Not said to me, I heard it on a great meeting on an audio podcast. And this is really hard, like, certainly as a parent, but those who are not parents, those of us who are working with addicts, related to addicts, sometimes we have to let the other person hit rock bottom. Like, if it's a parent, sometimes you have to let your kid gain, 10 kilo, God forbid. Sometimes you have to let them flunk the test. Sometimes you have to let them be late to school and get in trouble with the principal, the teacher. And we so badly want to prevent that, right? Because we're addicts. We know what rock bottom looks like. And we've seen it in our families, with our spouses, with our parents, if we're adult childs. We so badly want to, it's like those bumper cars, we so badly want to pad the stadium so no one crashes into the wall, because we've been there and we know what rock bottom looks like for us, for our parents, for our relatives, for those we've lost and buried. It isn't a joke, and yet we have to let go. We have to let go. I'm saying this for myself. I have to let go, and that's a difficult proposition. Like, I may have to watch my son, who just went down 3 shirt sizes, God forbid. I may have to watch him struggle before he owns it himself. I may, my daughter, that she's, teenager arguing with friends. I may have to watch her argue with friends and make mistakes, and that's not easy. With a sponsee who is a slaw and not willing to get into recovery, she may get an STD, she may get pregnant, she may get in trouble, she may get into deep depression. I can only help the person who really wants it. And I love what we're saying about your husband. You really have to pray for them. And I really have to remember that I'm a beautiful child of God, that Cheryl is a daughter of God, that the feel good from my spouse doing what they should be doing, or my daughter, and I'm all psyched because here I am, I'm in recovery, and my daughter did, start dieting and going to the gym and all that. And I'm so proud of her, but it's like, I have to remember that I'm a precious child of God, no matter, what my weight, with makeup, without makeup, hair removal, no hair removal. And so is my daughter. And so is my daughter. And so is my son. And like our fellow Nadia says, just have to send that Care Bear love from my heart to my children, to my fellows, to my friends, to those crazy people in my meetings, the addict who is still suffering. A lot of compassion and a lot of love and a lot of prayer. And I forget who said this. It's such a great quote. I don't think it was an old timer. He said as an Al-Anon, maybe his name was Chris. He said, if you let go, they might not recover and they might not stay alive, but they just might. And if you don't let go, they're not going to make it, and they might also take you down in the process. I paraphrase something like that, but and that I feel are working our step 12, working with others. Cheryl's on the phone here now. She can't simultaneously be with all you beautiful people and on Reco12 and up in her daughter's business. So to yours truly, I can't micromanage the world and be here on the Reco12 podcast. Do we have any last, maybe we have time for one more question. Do we have any more questions in the chat? Okay. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much. Would you like to pray us out?
Thank you. Yeah, sure. So I've chosen the Thomas Merton prayer. So it's kind of on my like recovery app thing. And I've always, I always find it really beautiful. So thank you for asking me to be of service, Karen. And thanks for everyone being on the meeting today. God bless you all. My Lord God, I have no idea where I am going. I do not see the road ahead of me. I cannot know for certain where it will end, nor do I really know myself. And the fact that I think that I am following your will does not mean that I am actually doing so. But I believe that the desire to please you does in fact please you. And I hope that I have that desire in all that I am doing. I hope that I will never do anything apart from that desire. And I know that if I do this, you will lead me by the right road, though I may know nothing about it. Therefore, I will trust you always, though I may seem to be lost and in the shadow of death. I will not fear, for you are ever with me, and you will never leave me to face my perils alone. Amen. Thank you.
Wow. You need to WhatsApp that to me. I have the chills. That is so special. Your will, not mine, be done. If anyone is interested, we spoke a lot about parenting. The second Wednesday of every month, we do the Mommy Podcast. It was Kirsty, Nadia, and I. Now it's going to be Kirsty. Cheryl, maybe you'll stand in for us, Nadia. Just got a great new job thanks to the promises of this program. We have a great mommy podcast where we talk about being a mommy. Let's have a couple of daddies too. Maybe we'll throw a daddy in there for fun. Parenting and recovery is part of the big book. I'm going to wish you all a beautiful day. To do his will, to want to do his will, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And may you spread your light, your own special light into the world. Thank you.
I've seen stars fall from above. I've fallen in and out of love. I've been high and I've been low. Now I know I just can't do this on my own. I've seen a boy become a man. He got lost without a plan. He's so far away from home. Now I know I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me. Your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. I'm looking for the words to say. You make the world a better place, and I can call that place my home. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me. Your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. So let me see just what you need to set you free, so we can be. I saw stars fall from above. I fell in and out of love. I got high and I fell low, but now I know that I just can't do this on my own. No, I just can't do this on my own. I just can't do this on my own.